My girlfriend said, "You'll never be successful like my ex. He owns 3 restaurants." Then she found out who her ex's silent partner was. Sarah loved bringing up her ex-boyfriend Marcus every chance she got. "He owns 3 restaurants downtown," she'd say while I was grading papers at the kitchen table. "That's what real success looks like, not whatever this is." I taught high school math and coached basketball. Sarah worked as a server at one of Marcus's restaurants, Bellevue Bistro. She'd come home every night with stories about how amazing he was as a boss, how much money the restaurants made, how he drove a Tesla and lived in a penthouse. "You're 32 and still living paycheck to paycheck," she'd say during our fights. Marcus was already a millionaire by 30. Maybe I picked the wrong guy. What Sarah didn't know was that I'd been Marcus's silent partner for 4 years. Back when he was desperate to open his first restaurant, he needed investors but couldn't get traditional loans. His credit was shot from a failed food truck business, and banks wouldn't touch him. I'd inherited $200,000 from my grandmother and was looking for investment opportunities. Marcus pitched me his restaurant concept at a coffee shop, literally begging for $150,000 to get started. The deal was simple. I'd provide startup capital and ongoing funding as needed. He'd run operations, and we'd split profits 60-40 in my favor since I was taking all the financial risk. All 3 restaurants were opened with my money. Marcus was the face of the business, but I owned the majority stake in everything. He got the credit and recognition while I stayed in the background, collecting checks and reinvesting profits into expansion. The arrangement worked perfectly for both of us. Marcus got to be the successful restaurant owner, and I got steady returns on my investment without the stress of daily operations. Our lawyers structured everything through LLCs to keep my involvement private. Last month, Sarah came home particularly excited. Marcus offered me a promotion to assistant manager at Bellevue. I'll finally be making real money and working for someone who actually knows how to run a business. The jab at my teaching career stung, but I just nodded. "That's great, babe. Sounds like a good opportunity." 2 weeks into her new position, Sarah was working late inventory when she noticed some discrepancies in the books. Being naturally curious and wanting to impress her boss, she decided to dig deeper into the financial records. That's when she found the investor agreements. Mountain View Holdings LLC owned 60% of all 3 restaurants and provided all startup funding. Marcus was essentially a very well-paid manager with a 40% profit share. Sarah called me from the restaurant office, her voice shaking. "Babe, I found something weird in Marcus's books. There's this investment company that apparently owns most of his restaurants. I think he might be lying about how successful he really is." "Mountain View Holdings," I said calmly. "What about them?" "You know about them? How did you know that name?" I put down my lesson plans and smiled. "Sarah, Mountain View Holdings is my company. I've been Marcus's primary investor since day 1. The silence on the other end lasted about 10 seconds. "What do you mean your company? I own 60% of all 3 restaurants. Marcus needed startup money, and I provided it. Every expansion, every renovation, every major purchase goes through me." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, but he acts like he owns everything. "He drives that Tesla and lives in the penthouse because I let him. Good for the business image. But the Tesla is leased through my company, and I co-signed for the penthouse because his credit still isn't great." She was quiet for a long moment. "So when I said you'd never be successful like Marcus, you were comparing me to someone whose success I literally funded." I finished. "Pretty ironic, right?" The next morning, Sarah came home early from her shift. "Marcus wants to meet with you," she said quietly. "He's panicking because he knows I found out about the real ownership structure." I met Marcus at his flagship restaurant after hours. He looked stressed, pacing behind the bar like a caged animal. "Look, Tom, Sarah's asking a lot of questions about our arrangement. She's smart and she's going to figure out more than I'm comfortable with." I sat down at the bar. "What exactly are you worried about, Marcus? If she tells people that I'm not really the owner, it'll hurt my reputation. People won't take me seriously as a restaurateur." I nodded thoughtfully. "That's a valid concern. What do you propose? Maybe we could restructure things? Give me a bigger ownership stake so it's not so obvious that you're the real boss?" I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, showing him the account balance. "Marcus, this year alone I've invested another $180,000 in renovations and equipment. You think I should give up ownership after putting in more money?" His face went pale. "No, of course not. I just thought maybe we could work something out." "Here's what we'll work out," I said, standing up. "Sarah's going to learn the truth about business ownership and silent partnerships. You're going to keep running these restaurants professionally, and I'm going to keep collecting my 60% while you take credit for the day-to-day operations." Marcus looked confused. "So nothing changes?" "Nothing changes except my girlfriend now knows that the math teacher she thought was unsuccessful actually owns the restaurants where her successful ex-boyfriend works."